screen with the Yep. Okay, she's gonna share the screen with our breakout question.
Any volunteers to be the spokesperson? I'm happy to help scribe. Any volunteers tonight?
I've
feel
had
like okay, because I felt like if I didn't volunteer, he was gonna make me. So somebody else got it out. We'll get out the way.
I'm good with that, Terrence. I've had my turn.
No,
How about what do you think about Brianna, Terrence?
I
think-
love that. That's amazing.
I think her voice is good.
I think they need to hear her. Let more of her, less of me, Bill.
Um,
I don't know about that, Terrence.
I
But yeah, I
think-
can report out.
I think you'll be great. Well, you want to see if we can stay on one of these questions. We usually go left or right or back and forth, but what recommendations can you offer the CMGC to best achieve journey workers and apprenticeship goals? Or what advice do you have for the CMGC that can be applied to assist with the recruitment and retention strategy in the BIPOC community?
I have a question.
Go for it, Michael.
So when we talk about journey level workers and apprentices on jobs in the city, public works jobs, there's a ratio of journey to apprentice. What's the ratio on this job?
They vary by craft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll have all that stuff available to us, because if you plan to hire 106 and 85 of those are journey level workers and 21 are apprentices, it seems like you have two things come to mind. One is you're top heavy on journey level workers. And the second is we're trying to train the future journey level workers. And if you've only got 21 in this new hire batch, it seems short. We're shorting our opportunities to train folks, because I know the ratios vary per craft.
And recently the ratios have gotten, I do. So I would answer that by saying, if we went back into the assessment and we used the all we did for the purpose of the assessment was use 20%. We didn't. Yeah. So, but I think to Floyd's point earlier, this is opportunity to look closely at each of the crafts, both open shop and non-union, and by craft, since we're getting down to numbers, say 22 is low, 22 bodies, say that's at the low end of the ratio spectrum right now. Maybe it increases up to 30 by using the softer ratios that are out there. You then just go by craft, and we start now. I would like to, what I've been telling Terrence is, like, every hire that you can make in the terms of the pipeline, the current projects that we're working on right now, is one that you don't have to make in the second quarter of 2023 when we get this thing going.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to add to it, in the fact that these are just new hires, the projection of new hires on the job, right? There's also the existing workforce that's coming to the job that's carrying apprentices with it and carrying minority and female workers with it. So what happens from there is that you're trying to meet or exceed that goal of 20%. And the goal is not craft specific, but it is for apprentices, right? You got to hire 20% apprentices in each craft except for operators, which is 15%. In most of the trades today, I don't want to say most, maybe half of the trades today have a ratio of 1 to 1, one journey level worker to one apprentice. So It's not hard to do anymore when, before in the past, it was 1 to 5, 1 apprentice to 5 journey workers. So it's going to be a whole lot easier to, as long as we can find the apprentices to put the work, it's going to be a lot easier to get them a job.
Katrina?
That's what I was gonna ask about. I took a screenshot of the slide that talked about 33 laborers, 24 operators. I kind of want to chat about that just for a brief minute.
Sure.
So one thing that happens is if we're bringing folks in, and let's say that they are working they're a manager at McDonald's and they leave their $16, $18 an hour job to go into an apprenticeship program. And then there's a lot of turnover. And so one strategy can be to make sure that contractors are using the apprentices for a specific number of hours so that they can't just have a lot of turnover. There's a lot of downsides to that as well. So if they select a candidate and then maybe every company has to keep at least one person, or maybe everybody has a certain number of people, a certain number of hours that have to be associated with it. But so I'm not 100% for sure, like, how did you guys decide 33 hours in laborers positions? Because that's the lowest paid occupation that's on this list. And that's a lot of laborers for, I'm just
30, yeah, it's 33 bodies, not hours. It's, when, I don't know if you remember the green sheet assessment, but there's a couple snapshots of it in the diversity plan that give you an example of what it looks like. It's a spreadsheet. And what we do is, the project that we estimate at 20% is roughly a $600 million construction project. There's like 400 bid items, right? And by bid item, Matt and I went through and broke the type of work down by craft within that bid item for that value of work. So although it's not 100% accurate, it's pretty darn accurate.
okay.
A projection. And again, to Brad's point, the numbers that we're showing you tonight are only the gap. The existing workforce that we projected is 800,000 hours compared to 580,000 hours. So there's, where we're talking about 106 bodies in this analysis tonight, the other portion of it is probably in the 160 to 170 body range to get the full picture. And I think that's something I'm taking away from this discussion tonight is we didn't show you enough breakdown of the existing workforce so you could see the big picture.
That probably would make, that might be where my thought is, because when I look at needing 24 operators, if we don't front load the pipeline, you can't have 24 people that are green on equipment. It's just not safe.
The 24 was the total journey plus apprentices.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
some are journey
Okay,
workers.
that
So
makes sense.
I just want to expand on what was talked about. So within the estimate, as we estimate a project, the project is estimated with crews. And the crews are made up depending on what they do. There might be 1 operator, 3 carpenters, 2 laborers, and a cement mason. So these crews and people or crafts are determined in the estimate. And at the end of it, you can pull out how many labor hours do we have, how many carpenter hours, how many. So it's all about the estimate and what's in the estimate. It's not a guess. It's science about what's in the estimate. And then from there, you take the percentage of existing workforce versus new hires, and you come up with these numbers. So
That totally makes sense.
they're
Thank you.
big
Brad.
numbers. They're big numbers, and we all have to work together because it's a lot of people. You don't think it's a lot of people, but in 4 years, hiring 106 people, it's a lot of people.
I wrote down, I want to make sure I captured what your point was, Katrina. I wrote down that we need to make sure that contractors fully utilize apprentices, not like part-time positions. Did I capture that?
Yeah, so an example of that would be if there is somebody and they do the calculation that they own to meet the requirement that they only need an apprentice 1 day a week. That's
Yeah,
the purpose. And so not that a contractor would do
Got
that.
it.
Everybody is in this for the right reasons, but as long as we're getting the message out and that people aren't looking at it in that respect. That's
got it.
trying to figure out where those numbers came from. Brad explained it and the light bulb went off. So thank you.
Got it. Got it. James, Mr. Posey.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Can y'all hear me okay? Sometimes my
Yep.
equipment doesn't work.
Yep.
So a couple of things. I'm a big proponent of incentives. I'm a big proponent of incentives. And one of the things that occurred to me was we're trying to fulfill multiple kinds of issues and concerns with the African-American community. And it occurred to me that you guys are doing some things right now informally that maybe we need to formalize. And let me just say what that is. You're helping your employees with home ownership. You're developing a cadre of people who have the wherewithal to buy homes. And my question is, why wouldn't we link that to an incentive program to bring in critical hires to maybe work with the banks to do a down payment or do a sort of cachet of resources for based upon salary over 4 years to be in a position to have a down payment for a house within the affected area. So I'm talking about linking, what the objectives are with the incentive to get folk back into our community, but maybe once left, didn't have the wherewithal to buy a house, et cetera, to actually promote a program that would have that added benefit, if you follow what I'm saying. And I would prioritize that based upon what the critical areas of deficits, a delta, if you will, of those crafts that are most needed. Now, I know that sounds kind of, I'm coloring outside the lines with this. I know, and I'm not, I don't have any illusions whether or not something like that will work, but I know Emmanuel Hospital did that when they were trying to bring people to stay at Emmanuel Hospital. They did that. They offered a incentive-based housing program aligned with their ability to keep employees at Emmanuel Hospital. So there's nothing new under the sun. That's a beautiful thing that they did. And I think we ought to explore those sort of incentive-based approaches to keeping folk, okay, so that's one thing. The other thing, and Brad talked last time we met about what do we need to do to invest in our community? What do we need to do to show investment in our communities? I don't know if you guys notice it or not, but if you drive down I-5 or 84, any of these highways, it's absolutely insane, dirty, crazy with graffiti. And I don't know why we wouldn't approach ODOT to put crews out on the ground, get busy to clean up our highways, adopt a highway and put crews out there who could run equipment, who could do traffic control, who could be in line in a pipeline scenario, just like we're getting ready to do for I-5. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we make a proposal to them to front load crews to go out to clean up our highways, run a track hole to clean up dirt, paint, traffic control. I did a little striping, anything to make our highways look better, cleaner, and really begin to train and develop people in that arena. I'm gonna stop there because I got some other crazy ideas too. But to me, this is the way we ought to go.
I have actually loved that idea that, when we did the transit mall, put rail on the transit mall, and when we did interstate, we developed programs like that at the end of the projects to maintain the improvement after it was completed. But given the last year and a half in Portland, boy, that's a awesome idea. If we could get out there early and do something like that, I think that would go right into what we've been calling the pipeline.
So Bill, you one of the few people who could execute something like that. I wouldn't say this to a whole bunch of people, but you're one of the few people that understands the danger on the highways and the traffic control and the way, you're a safety guru. So you understand what would need to take place. You have the Coalition of Black Men who's trying to do a graffiti program local. I don't know why you guys wouldn't go out and get the Coalition of Black Men, fund them at a level where they can be seen on our highways, cleaning these highways up, making things, and at the same time, building a database of people who have the aptitude to want to fit into your pipeline ongoing.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, James. So again, I think that's a great idea. We can certainly start approaching ODOT with it. It's, if they have the ability, if anybody has the ability to do it, they do. It's just a matter of presenting it to them in a way that they find the fun to make it happen.
Well, Brad, on the last combined COAC, all these committees together, I said to Megan, it's 2 years out of us on this project. We started the COAC 2 years ago, and we talked about building a driveway, a highway, or a takeoff path to get you all started, and from a pipeline perspective, and they haven't done squat. I mean, I laid it on them the last time we had the thing. They need to get busy. I mean, whatever all this other shenanigans going around with the, option 3 item, we need to get busy today to get moving to do this, because there are other projects we need. Even if this didn't go nowhere, we still need to do what I'm talking about regardless. So why wouldn't we do that?
Felicia?
Thank you. I just wanted to say the original proposal that Mr. Posey had around incentives. University of Portland has an employer-based housing program to have people live by the University of Portland, and they give up to $15,000 to University of Portland employees to buy a house. I do remember the Emmanuel program. In particular, the reason I say is the model is similar to Emmanuel's old model, and that one still exists today if you want to talk to that team over there. And I agree with Mr. Posey, the more incentives we can have on the on the labor shortage, the better it is. So I just wanted to put out there that I agree as well, and that there is an actual program in existence today that you can model and ask and have research.
And I can, yeah, go ahead, Terrence.
Mr. Posey, I just want to know, when you talk about incentive, you're talking about incentivizing the workers, and in that way, are you talking about things like down payment match or comparative, like to help people get into homes? Because like to get into homes, especially for people in our community, we have a long journey, right? We got to work with credit, budgeting, saving. So are you talking about getting them involved in that type of programming and teaching, and then matching them and meeting them when it's time to purchase?
All of above, Terrence.
Okay.
This is about accountability for wealth building, making our community more healthy. Half the young people don't know nothing about credit and how to keep credit, and the taxes, the whole thing. We have to have some ancillary kind of support systems to help our people move from where they are to where we can be a part of a growing and thriving community. Because this does not happen by accident. You have to be intentional about it, because there are a lot of distractions, a lot of things out here that our people have fallen into. And let me just say this: the redlining, the racism that have occurred historically in our community are weighing heavy on our people right now. And so I don't want to talk about reparations or anything like that, because that people go crazy when you talk about that. But at the end of the day, we got to try to make things right for our people who have been abused by many of these systems that are out there. That's all I'm saying. And this is a good project to make that happen.
I'm sorry, Miss Christine, go ahead.
Michael had his hands up before me.
But I'll let you go first. You haven't spoken yet. Thank you.
Oh, well, I've been listening, and to me, and I'm not sure where the line should be, this is really more of an internal employee benefits, company programs that I think what I'm hearing versus, something that ODOT should put into, because, a lot of incentives, like what you were saying, is really part of what you offer the employees to keep them working for you in the company. And that's how you, when you do your breakdown on the cost, right? Per hour, you include that as all, employee benefits costs, vacation time, so on and so forth. So that's when I'm listening to it, that's what it really sounds like, more internal to the company, employee benefits, company programs. So I'm not quite sure how you would tie that to ODOT, except for raising the billable rate to include all that, because I know I'm a federal contractor now for almost 40 years. So I know that it's, they pick and choose every nickel and dime, and you have to show proof of every penny spent and the allowable and unallowable cost. So, but I mean, my company, I've given from day one really good benefits where I've had employees leave, and this is back in the 90s, early 90s, and they call me and they say, hey, your benefits are way better than a large company. So, that's all part of the incentive and employee retention. And then, to build camaraderie, to build loyalty within the company, like offering, 401k or pension plan or, all those sorts of things, right? So other than, like I say, raising the billable wage by $1 or 50 cents or whatever to offer these, how I can say, I'm not sure, because I'm, within your industry, how would you tie that for ODOT to then say this is it versus something that's internal to your companies? Thank you.
Yes, great comment. Great comment.
So I want to speak to that a little
Wait,
bit.
time out.
Okay.
It's my turn.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Burt.
Thank you. So when we did this breakout and I looked at the breakout questions, I was trying to focus on the answer to those two questions, right? Which is the CMGC, what advice do we have to assist with the recruitment retention strategy of BIPOC community? There's a pipeline out there that's already established, been around for a very long time, that you could tap into to bring people on. That's the 30,000 foot answer. With respect to the top question, which should be the second one, right? How do you get to journey level? It's about retention. How do you retain the people that you bring? We have data from BOLI that says we bring Black and brown folks to the table. We bring women to apprenticeship. The graduation rate sucks because they're not retained. They're treated poorly. Whatever reason they leave, it's because contractors are not intentional about keeping. When they show up on the job site, they get assigned typically to a journey level worker. And that journey level worker, they don't check to see if this person cares about apprenticeship and training and retaining their workers if they don't look like them. They just assign them to a journey level worker. What we found is if you assign them to a journey level worker that cares about their training, no matter what their gender is, life choice, color of their skin, they're made to feel welcome, they will stay longer. If you're intentional about bringing them on and keeping them, there's low-hanging fruit that you could participate in doing on your job site that would help keep these folks on the job. And we've got a ton of examples. I do not have the ability right now to tell you whether or not these are union or non-union folks, but I do know that, Bill, I met you on the interstate job, and I know that you had a formula there for not only getting the contractors, but the workforce. So we've evolved since then. And there's a ton of opportunities we bring them to the table. They don't stay. They don't stay when they bother filling out that exit review or just talking to us on the street. They don't stay because of how they were treated, not by the company, but by a person that works for the company. Say from Hay, they're still dealing with that. The operators are dealing with it right now. So if we are intentional about bringing people of color on and women, if we're intentional about retaining them, there are a lot of tools available to you today.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. I agree. Al Jameson was my guy then. I don't think he's with us anymore.
And I totally agree with you, Michael. And that's the whole spirit of this,
Yeah.
is to be intentional and retain and train the journey level workers on how to train people, because in this industry, journey level workers have a problem with training people. And we've get past that, and we're going to work really hard to do that.
Okay, we have a 5-minute warning before we go back to our main group. If you would like to take a moment, we're going to share the screen again to look at the questions so that we can summarize your responses. If Brianna, if you would like to take a shot at it, we're going to do this as like a rehearsal, if we may.
You want to get Katrina's last comment?
Oh, Katrina had it. Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
Katrina's hand raised. Yes.
I was just going to add to something that Christine had mentioned about incentivizing training agents. So building the pipeline now so that you don't have green people on day one. And if there is some sort of incentive, billable hour or something, some sort of incentive for training agents that take people on and employ them so that we can be building the pipeline. If folks finish the program early, then they just become the journey workers and you take on new apprentices, so that then you don't have a bunch of green people on the job site. Or maybe there's some sort of incentive if they kept the apprentice the entire time for the entire length of the project, they get something at the end for doing that.
When you say they, I'm sorry, Christina, when you say they, do you mean the people that's made it through the program or the companies?
I mean both. The apprentice and also for the company. It's very easy for a company when there are some sort of retention issues to send them back to apprenticeship rather than letting us help them work through whatever that retention issue is.
No, I definitely understand. I think when I hear incentivizing companies outside of just the intentions to be great, right? I always reference Brad with this. He did some amazing things when I worked with him to challenge the people that work for him to do the right things, right? And so for me, when we start incentivizing contractors, my daughter, she's bad. When we start incentivizing contractors, I just get nervous that we lose out on the sincerity. And I just think if we're going to be different this time, that we have to get contractors that truly buy into what we're trying to do in a sincere way. Because for me, the fact that you're going to get 20 or 30% on just to be there should be incentive enough. But I definitely understand what you're saying. I'm just expressing that makes me nervous, because what I want is contractors that are going to do the work on the highest levels because they want to change.
Okay, we're getting ready to go out into the main room. Can we do a little quick synopsis if we can? We don't have that much time.
Corinne, we don't know. I mean, we normally do all right.
Well, I just thought that we had some time at the end. I didn't know we were having more comments. Yeah, that's fine.
We normally go right till they shut us off.
Okay.
Miss Christine?
Yes, I don't think you can really tell. You can develop the programs within your company from the top, and most contracts say you have to have similar programs down to all the subcontractors. And I think that's how you follow it through. You don't personally have to give them the money to do it, but they need to set up programs internally with you being the model to do that. And like, for example, I had one, it wasn't technology. I had one to be certified as a Microsoft, and it's very intensive studying and very hard test. And every time they pass the test, they get $100. They get paid for the time they pass the test. If they get certified as a programmer, I gave them a weekend trip for their family, a $500 weekend trip, because the whole idea is you get the family involved because they took time away from their families to study and to take the test. So it pulls it within the family. So those are just different type of incentives that, you can come up with to keep them, engaged and to keep them, the retention. So we can talk